Hey, everybody, and welcome to the Inferno cast. I, of course, am Inferno Fox, the host for our fantastic video game related podcast, of which you can find on Amazon Music, Apple Podcasts, here on YouTube, as well as on Spotify. We got a fun topic here tonight. It's really quite a really recent current event sort of topic, really something that is really making waves, I guess you could say, based on a number of numerous news events as it impacts some of the ways that video games themselves are sold. But before we get into that, I want to go ahead and introduce my lovely and fantastic crew. And first, we've got Jason the 13th of the YouTube channel, Jason the 13th. Jason, thank you so much for joining us.
Not a problem.
And we also have Jamie Owls 87. She is my partner and partner in crime. Jamie Owls, thank you so much for joining us as well.
Glad to be here.
Also, we have Stormrosesky, who is the owner of the Twitch and YouTube channels of Stormrosesky. Storm, thank you so much for joining us as well.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
And we are happy to have you here. Next up is Astrimedes, the developer and co-owner of Second Place Games. Astrimedes, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. It's the best part of today for me.
And last but not least, we have Simbu Darkfang, the best fork knife player. He's the best fork knife player and primary actor of Basement of the Dead. Simbu, thank you so much for joining us.
Oh boy, you're really gonna put a target on my back online, aren't you?
You never would think to do that. Never would do that at all. That's absolutely not what I'm
You
doing.
just must walked on sacred territory, though. Calling him the best Fortnite player. Eek.
He is the best. But before we get into our main topic, I want to go ahead and ask you guys. So we had last week off due to celebrating the wonderful holiday of Halloween. And I just want to kind of ask, what video games are you guys currently playing right now? And I'm going to shine the spotlight on my partner, Jamie Owls. Jamie Owls, what are you playing right now?
I am playing Alan Wake 2. I'm enjoying it. The graphics are great. I wouldn't say I'm halfway through. I haven't been playing games every single day, but on the side, I'm still playing Super Mario 3D World. I have not started Wonder, but that will be the next Mario game I'll play after I'm finished with Mario 3D World.
Excellent. Yeah, the Alan Wake 2 is going to be touched upon a little bit in our topic tonight.
Yeah.
Astrimedes, though, how about you? What are you playing right now?
I had a period of a few days over the weekend where I played a surprising amount of Inscription, a game I had played a bit before. I'd invested maybe 4 or 5 hours in it when we talked the last time, where I mentioned on the last cast a bit, but played it a bit more now, and it's really good. It takes a very strange turn some portion of the way through the game when it kind of seems like you've won the game, and they layer this whole kind of weird they make it appear like it's sort of like a found cursed game. So at particular points at the very beginning, when you first boot up the game, you see this kind of weird, it looks essentially like a YouTuber who is talking about a weird game he found that he's not sure if he's ever heard of this game existing. And you get another point where you can watch some very short little video clips of this YouTuber sort of between game modes changing essentially. And he basically talks about he's trying to figure out who else has ever seen this game. He claims, it's based on this real card game, but this is the first digital version he's ever found on it. So he tries to get in contact with the company. The company somehow finds him, you see, from another later video, and then kind of leaves off there and puts you into the next part. But it's really good. It's just really the game mechanics themselves are deep enough. I think there's possibly some sort of like flaws with some of the mechanics, just in terms of like balance issues. But it's a single player game, so it's not really a huge deal because the game is really about like the mood and the theme, and like there's a very well done sort of creepy, overbearing, like mood continuing themes of like kind of sacrifice and death that are going on throughout the game. It's really good. It's more interesting than I thought it would be. Even before I bought it, I had watched a little bit of footage of the game on YouTube and became interested. So when it went on sale, that was my excuse. And yeah, so I've gotten much more interested than I expected in Inscription, which I honestly expected to play for maybe 3-4 hours and then say that was fun and put it aside.
Nice. Yeah, it's always good to have those games that sort of surprise you and really help to grab your attention. Storm, how about you? What are you playing right now?
Well, right now I've still been going through Sea of Stars. It's been a slow go for me because I've been really busy with work, which is good when you're contract and whatever. But I've had a full week of school last week and a couple of full days this week, and it's just tiring. So I've been binging a lot of Roseanne and not watching or playing a whole lot, but Sea of Stars and, well, Fortnite because, well, the OG map is back, or yeah, whatever, the OG. It's been fun.
Very cool. Yeah, it's nice to have like the combination of the new with the Sea of Stars and the comfort food stuff, which of course OG, literally OG, Fork Knife being back, as well as having a really great TV shows too.
Right, and speaking of the comfort food, I've been playing a little bit of Animal Crossing again, slowly rebuilding both islands, which is another bit we'll talk about with the digital copies and how that has helped that community tremendously with all their stuff and what they did to us instead of giving us a real update, But there you go.
Excellent. Jason, how about you? What are you currently playing right now?
Played a little bit of my Disgaea 7, got a little bit into the Pokemon DLC, which my laptop is having issues, so that's making things more fun for recording. Other than that, just a little bit of Fortnite, and that's about it right now. Just those couple things, and comfort food. I've in the middle of watching shows and stuff. I've been shiny hunting on Brilliant Pearl, I'm sorry. Shiny hunting Palkia. So those are the main things I've been doing right now.
Very cool. Simbu, how about you? What games are you currently playing right now? It looks like you're muted.
You're muted.
Usual suspects, Fortnite, Speedstorm. Recently, the old Dead Island crew got back together again for the Dead Island 2 DLC House, which I have to say, if they're claiming it's a major story expansion, I'm sorry, Deep Silver, I love you guys. I love Dead Island. It's a great hack and slash, but for story-wise, it's not a major story expansion. It's like almost an arena feeling DLC. Because you've got to find a lot of the story, and a lot of the story is told through like the collectibles you find, and it's like, well, yeah, you made like 4 areas and we're just going back and forth between 3 of them for the most part. It's not they kind of missed the mark on that.
Would you say it's not worth the money spent?
Yeah, for the DLC, I would say no. Zombies are are pretty much damage sponges, even though they're level 30, same as us, the players. And I don't know, they kind of missed the mark.
That's disappointing. At least you got the main game was still good, which is miraculous in of itself. The whole dev time between Dead Islands 1 and 2.
Well, yeah, seeing as how it was pretty much canceled like 4 different times.
So I myself, I called on Simbu last on this because I'm currently playing Hogwarts Legacy. This is where Simbu's supposed to say about time. Because of course this game came out in what, April? Exactly. So yeah, it came out in April. Playing it on the PS5, getting beyond any sort of any potential controversies or anything like that. Again, tabling that, putting that off to the side. The game itself is actually very, very well done, even more so than what I would have thought it would be. Definitely having a lot of fun. I could see it being in the conversation for possible game of the years announcements or anything like that. Maybe not the game of the year, but like maybe best adventure or something along the lines like that, because the nominations officially come out on Monday. So it'll be interesting to see what is called what, and well, what's going to be nominated and what have you. So yeah, that's been a lot of fun, a great time. But next Friday is when the remake for Super Mario RPG comes out. Or no matter what I'm playing, if I'm still playing Hogwarts Legacy or something else, everything is getting tabled because Super Mario RPG will be the #1 game. So
Absolutely.
yes.
You will lose me that weekend to what Fortnite?
Yes, I literally took the day off that Friday when it's coming out. Exactly. If for our friends who are listening to podcasts only, Simbu had the perfect reaction visually. Yeah, so that's definitely going to be the attention for me. I'll probably end up finishing the game that weekend if I'm honest. It's not that long, right, Storm?
No, not at all. And I probably, if it's in my hands and that's all I'm doing, probably same as close to, because I absolutely just love the original. So I am so freaking excited.
But don't forget, Storm, when you beat the bosses, once you beat the game, you can beat the bosses again at a harder difficulty. They come back for a second battle.
Woohoo! Well, there you go. I can build up.
And I have
Yay.
also taken off days to play games like that before.
It's going to be well deserved.
Yes. But speaking of games, obviously going into our main topic, we are going to be discussing the sort of death of physical media, and of course referring to the physical games that you see here. I've got a physical copy of the original NES version of Dragon Quest or Dragon Warrior 3 up to the current gen of the same game, Dragon Quest 3, combined with 1 and 2. I point those out because of how you got a span of like 25-30 years, and yet we still have various forms of physical media. But is this gonna be the last time that we're going to be having physical media for consoles? So we've known for some time that this is kind of coming, because there's 2 versions of the newest consoles from both Microsoft and Sony that were released. Obviously disc versions and digital versions of the PS5, and the Xbox Series X being physical and digital within itself, and then the Series S that's digital only, kind of like what I kind of think of as like the clown car version of the series systems for the Xbox. Why we're discussing this, of course, is how it was recently announced within the last month or two that Walmart is going to discontinue selling physical copies of video games in their stores starting in 2024. And Best Buy is going to no longer sell DVDs and Blu-rays physically at their stores. So one of the things that I've noticed regarding the physical copies at the stores, me personally, and Jamie Owls, you probably had noticed this as well when we've walked into like GameStops, multiple locations of GameStops, as well as like Best Buys and Walmarts. The video game stock has really been shrinking, and I'm noticing a lot more like empty floor space at all of these stores where this physical media would be. So like you'd think that they would have replaced that where that physical media was with, I don't know, like stacks of flat screen TVs like you usually see on like Black Fridays, but I'm not even really seeing that, at least not yet this year. So I just kind of want to open the floor here just to kind of see what your guys' experience has been with these stores whenever you shop for video games and movies at these locations. Storm, if I can get your feedback on that, just kind of what your experience with these stores has been with shopping for physical video games and media.
You know what? Honestly, Target is my go-to. When it's not surprising that Walmart is getting rid of them. However, let me finish my thought on Target. They're when I've been there, they're most of the time their stuff is out of stock, but they have normally good sales on video games and their media. Like right now, they have a buy two, get one free, and it's video games, movies, and books. So you can mix and match those. There are a couple on the list that I kind of want, but God of War is not one of them. The God of War Ragnarok, that is not one of them. So, and they're also that way for their movies, and they're my favorite go-to for Black Friday. Walmart, quite honestly, I think what hurts their sales is trying to find anyone back in their departments that can unlock the things to get you the games. And I think that's what hurts them most, because I've waited for a while and, well, I have to go. So I've had to walk away from buying the thing there because there was no one to unlock a cabinet. So I also think they may have a shrink issue because, again, no one there. And if someone wants it enough, I'm sure those things could be broken into and whatever taken. But yeah, so I would suggest the Target is a go-to for, physical media. They seem to be selling out most of the time, but again, maybe that's because they get low stock. I don't know if, physical media is having a hard time with sales, but at the same time, they seem to be doing well. They have shrunk their areas a little bit, but they've making more room for books. So I can't complain as a writer, and I like seeing their spread of books. They have more anime related, or like the Magna and stuff. So that's kind of neat.
Yeah, I can definitely recommend the buy two get one free sale. I picked up Mortal Kombat, the Metal Gear Solid collection, and the newest Sonic game. I'm like, oh, I can't pass up the deal with the brand new games that just came out within the last month or three, and like, oh, definitely recommend that. And that's going on right now as of this recording of this podcast / video podcast. So make sure you check. And obviously with Black Friday coming up, it's
and by no means are we like this any kind of sponsored BS. It's just experience with the retailer.
Yes, yeah, we're not sponsored by Target. We will be eventually sponsored by Factor, because all YouTube content creators end up getting sponsored by Factor, and make sure that you get your meals prepped ahead of time with Factor.
I ate one today. It was fine.
Fine.
Simbu, how about you? What have you been kind of your experiences with the physical media at stores like that?
Honestly, a lot of it depends on what store you're going to. Like, not just the store itself, like the chain or brand, but the location itself.
Yep.
There is a Target out here by us in the Yorkville area, where their video game stock is very small. They have about half the size of the cases that other Target, like bigger Targets, like the one in Naperville, have. So, and same thing with even Walmart's. Like, the difference between Walmart's, yeah, their overall cases may be the same size, but you look at some Walmart's, they have a lot less in those cases versus the bargain bin $20, under $20 cases where they use the anti-theft locks on them and stuff like that. And then of course GameStop, and GameStop has been coming for years, even before they went out of business originally. quote unquote out of business. Let me supplement that because I'm getting some dirty looks from a couple of you. But it was a long time coming. You slowly saw more and more collectibles and nicky nacky stuff slowly creep its way in. So when it comes to GameStop, when 360 and PS3 games went out the door, that's when a lot of GameStop started dumping a lot of inventory, because there was a lot of inventory, in PS3 and Xbox 360 being one of the most popular consoles of all times. But you saw that, like around that time, you saw this creep in of all this nicky nacky, collectible stuff and things like that make its way in, and it's just slowly been more and more and more as you see me glitch out there. The physical media is going away to where now, I mean, GameStop kind of really doesn't have much of anything anymore. And, it also is interesting when it comes to Target. I was going to say this with Storm's comment. You definitely see they are buying less and less stock for each location rather than, because you see some of the games, like the older ones, like some of the Need for Speeds that are sitting in there, and they'll have stacks of games in the case for Need for Speed. But then you look at a game that came out maybe a couple months later, that game's gone. But it's still a 1 to 2 year old game, but it's gone. It's a lack of like that. It's just a lack of purchasing the physical media, because that's the thing. Sad but true. A lot of people are going digital.
Yeah, it all depends on like how often like you said, how often are they replenishing the stock? Is the safety stocks and everything being is there a replenishment strategy that matches what the sell rate and everything is? Jason, how about you? Has your experience kind of been mirrored to what Storm and Simbu have said?
Oh yeah. I pop my head into Best Buy every once in a great while. Their DVDs and Blu-rays and stuff has been shrinking every single time I walk in there. Every time it gets smaller. Walmart has been getting smaller and smaller, and I have made Target my go-to for movies, at least. Games, I pretty much still go to GameStop, and GameStop has gotten more the collectible stuff, which is pretty much helps them stay in business. I did want to say one small thing to Simbu's comments. How much of the less stock is saved at their warehouses for online orders?
Yeah,
because
that's true.
Not video game related, but new CD set that just came out that collector and me needs to have for my collection, is a
Garth Brooks.
Yes, it is the Garth Brooks box set.
I expect that for
Pro
Christmas.
Shop only. It came out today. I had to buy it online because it's not in stock at the store that you can only find it at. But online they have plenty, but yet it's not in stock at the store. How does that work? So some of that missing stock could be saved for online orders compared to being in store, since more people are buying online. Which is the hope, but we know that digital media is the big push right now, which for collectors, it just is a sad time.
Yeah, and it's funny because like I've heard of like different ratios depending on the different consoles and regions where in Japan, if I'm remembering right, for Nintendo, for example, it's like 60-40 physical to digital. Here in the States, it's like 50-50. For Sony, here in the States, it's like 60 or 70 to 30-40 digital to physical. There's more of a predominance for digital on like Sony stuff here in like the United States. So to me that's an interesting facet. If you get things, so Jason, you said regarding physical, you still get it like the greater majority from GameStop pre-ordering, right?
For video games, yes, I get most of it from GameStop still. What if they finally die out? It will be sad because then I will have to get online like everything.
Yeah, so like when it comes to, do any of you guys, Jamie Alls, I know you're a proponent of this, as am I, but do any of you guys order video games at all from Amazon, like physical copies of video
Oh
games?
yeah, I've gotten a few from them. Yep.
I have.
Amazon is my go-to, and then second would be Target.
So Jamie Owls, what sort of difficulties have you run into with getting video games from Amazon?
If it's a video game I pre-ordered and let's say it gets released a certain date, when that date comes, I don't get it that day. It tells me you'll get it tomorrow or 2 days from now. That is the only issue I have, because if there's a game that I want or I'm excited for, I should be expected to get that game on the release date. And so far, that has happened to me a couple times, including books too. It happened to me with books.
That's so crappy. I think that's indicative to the internal system of shipping that they use. I've seen a couple. Trying to remember the name of the small documentary that I saw about how their shipping system works, and they're getting, or I should say we as the customer are getting what we pay for regarding the shipping method. Storm, have you mentioned that you purchased games from Amazon? Have you had any issues like that with Amazon delivering stuff before?
No, not on video games.
That's good.
I usually have gotten the games after they're out. I've tried to think of one that I've pre-ordered, and I can't think of anyone I've honestly pre-ordered. Not even the Super Mario RPG, which right now I'm like, I need to go do that. But no, I've luckily not had those issues. But with books, yes, the books after the date, and even I pre-ordered it, but got it well after the date that it came out, and it was a week or two after, and that was just BS.
That's frustrating.
To me, so.
I forgot to mention one more thing. it only happened once, but I pre-ordered a game and it says it delivered, it never delivered. Or I know this happened to you, you got the empty package.
Yeah, it said it delivered, and it was one of those, bubble wrap things, and the frickin' thing was just empty. I'm like, oh, cool. So you gave me this package instead of a $60 Nintendo Switch game. Nothing. Wonderful. Thank you, Amazon.
There's one thing
Oh, I'm sorry, Simbu, go ahead. I'm sorry.
One thing I'm curious about when it comes to Amazon, because I've only done it a couple times, and every time I've gotten the game on the day that it releases, like it ships a couple days, the shipping, it hits the warehouse. I mean, it helps that I'm not far from one of the distribution centers right there in Downers Grove, so that's kind of that helps. But I'm wondering if it has to do with your pre-order number.
Yes.
Because remember, back in the day when you had to pre-order and physically go to a store at a midnight release, I will say for Halo 3, there was a special like bonus thing you could get, or like some extra stuff, like physical, like little, collectible stuff you could get, but it was only for X amount of, the first 100 or, pickups, similar to what they do at like professional sports games. First 1,000 fans get, the collectible, El Belfour bobblehead. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know what I mean? I'm wondering if it has to do with that. Like if you pre-ordered your copy months in advance,
does that affect the order and ensure that you're going to get one of the earlier copies first? That's a good question.
That, or could they possibly be doing it by alphabetizing the pre-orders? Somebody with, Inferno and Jamie Owls, your last name, for example, your real last name, which I'm not going to say, but you were going to be lower on that. If they alphabetize it, you're going to be lower on that list.
Yeah, I wonder if it could even be too, like, it basically the entire thing is the shipping algorithm for them. Like, what if they just work it out?
I'm going to cut you off, Astrimedes. You can't talk unless your cat is present. So your cat has to be on your shoulders at all times.
Let me hold the speaking cat. Okay.
Yes, you must hold the speaking cat. Okay, proceed.
Forgot what I was going to say now. I got distracted by this cat. Oh yeah, I was saying I wonder if it could be, Amazon's shipping algorithm is actually what determines it or whatever, like they prioritize for their ability to, ship them most efficiently or something. Who knows? It's Amazon. It's a black box. They do what they want and all the prices are fake and everything is made up about how the business works.
Just like the points and whose line is it anyway? The points are all
That's
made up.
That's exactly what I was thinking of. Yep.
God, I love that
The
show.
game is all made up and the points don't matter.
Yep.
Oh, that show is so
'cause
good. Anyway,
The other thing is, because the reason why I bring up the shipping and all that is because you look at when you buy from Amazon, you don't always get an Amazon package. You can get from UPS, you can get from USPS, you can get from FedEx here and there once in a while, and it depends on where the item is in relation to you and what's the fastest way to get it to you, via your Prime membership sort of thing.
And or what's the cheapest for them too, because ultimately, if it's going to cost a lot to get one of the Amazon vans out to where you're at versus just having a FedEx truck that's already going to have a predetermined route in your area, they're going to go with the latter versus the former.
Right, especially if I'm going to get something from the east, all the way on the west coast of California or Washington State, they may just USPS it to me because, well, that's going to be the cheapest. And not only that, USPS may have a plane flying from Washington to Chicago, in the next, day or so versus Amazon's next shipment that would get 3 days later over there, or they would have to specially fly it out to Chicago to deliver it to the Downers Grove distribution center.
Yeah, funny enough, I've actually had the best luck with USPS on delivering stuff like FedEx, UPS, USPS, Amazon's own cadre of trucks and personnel. They've been really good with that. But kind of moving us forward here, one of the things is that like there are a number of video games even when they are sold physically, so like we're talking about getting like physical copies from like Amazon or you're going into Target, where they're still heavily leaning towards like a digital only presence. So like not only live service games like Fork Knife where like it's a pack, like it's a case that contains skins or something, there's no actual game inside but a code, but also stuff even like Destiny 2 or Apex Legends. I remember I have a physical copy of Destiny 1 for the PS4 when that's like that sort of live service thing. And I'm also kind of talking about
one of these.
Yes, looking at Jason here, he's got a physical copy
I had to pick that up
Knife for the PS5.
But there's absolutely nothing in it.
Because there's no game disc for Fortnite in general.
Nope. That was just the Transformer skins pack.
So like it's funny, imagine that, imagine Jason holding up that empty thing, or even having him open up one where it's full and it's a disc, but the disc is only 75 megabytes. That's Modern Warfare 2 that came out last year.
Jedi
the disc is only like the startup. It just tells it download the game and make sure this player is okay to connect online and play.
The license checker.
Yep, DRM. It's like physical DRM. Other examples, like if you're a Nintendo Switch owner, and especially a Nintendo Switch physical collector like I am, and this has prevented me from picking up a couple collections of games where, for example, like the Resident Evil triple pack, where it's supposed to contain the OG Resident Evil 4, Boulder Punching Resident Evil 5, and Resident Evil 6. The cartridge in there only contains Resident Evil 4, and you have to download 5 and 6.
Yeah, did one of the Mega Mans do that too?
Yes, yeah. Mega Man Legacy Collection 1 and 2, Mega Man X Legacy Collection 1 and 2, where it has one in both of them, but you got to download the two of both regular and X. And like even that upcoming Batman Arkham trilogy coming to the Switch, which is great, but it only has Arkham Asylum. It does not have Arkham City and the third Batman game, which the title escapes me, which is so bad.
Arkham Origins.
Thank you. Yeah, Arkham Origins, the third one. So I'm going to direct this next question to both Jason and Astrimedes. You want to get your cat speaking handy there. So kind of want to lean to your strengths here, where Jason in sort of a collector's way and Astrimedes in that sort of game preservation way. What are each of your concerns as a collector and a game preserver for the physical media where it doesn't contain all of the game, or just like that DRM check, or literally nothing? Jason, your thoughts first.
As a collector, those situations kind of suck. If you're gonna get a collection pack and have to download half of it, that's just laziness in my opinion. That collection pack should have it. At least if you're getting like the Fortnite skins, I know it's an empty package that I bought. I bought the code that came inside it. At least I know that it's an empty package, to where if I know that I'm buying a download, it's not as bad as that, oh, here's one of the games and now you have to download the other games. Just throw them all in the same package. It's not going to change anything they do. But yeah, I don't like that. That just drives me insane.
Yeah, I'm right with you there too. Like I want to have a nice, robust Nintendo Switch physical collection, and the idea that I'm not going to have all of that, like let's say an EMP fries all of the online servers and we're all stuck, having to game with offline capability. It would be nice to have that.
Yeah, because then you only got one game out of the three.
Exactly. Astrimedes, how about you on a game preservation? What are your thoughts?
So, I mean, like it makes a certain sense that things are distributed that way. I mean, I feel like as early as, like the early 2000s, we saw games kind of starting to do this. I think MMOs were like maybe an early example where you fundamentally knew that whatever you were installing, you'd have to essentially download a whole bunch of stuff regardless anyway. So, I mean, like I can't really blame kind of companies for wanting to do this. It just makes sense from like an efficiency perspective and everything. I think like, some of the problems it creates is it encourages, releasing broken software. If you're literally just installing, the downloader and runner, you're even less beholden to release a complete and fully functional game day one, than when you would be. There's major concerns there too, even before I get into preservation, just the negative side of that, of course, is, people that don't have a great internet connection, they save up the, potentially even more money comparatively for them than some other, more privileged people, amount of money. They buy this thing and now they're going to have to wait, 4 days for it to try to download over their slow internet connection, over time. So that's pretty brutal. And I think for consoles also, it feels more like a cop out for consoles somehow than for PCs to do that, I think, just because as the whole appeal of a console, and I haven't had a console in a bit, but even though I'm a primarily PC gamer, like what I like about consoles is, I like the notion of dedicated hardware, first of all, for a specific thing. And then like I like the consoles are a lot more kind of self-contained generally, where normally if you have the stuff, as long as you have like a video device and audio device, you can hook that thing up to. It doesn't matter how old your console is, as long as it's still in working order and you get whatever converters you need for the audio and video, it will work, in the future. So I like that aspect a lot. Like there's definitely, in terms of preservation, it's a nightmare. I think what and I mean, there are actually, organizations like kind of trying to do this right now. I know there's an organization called the Video Game History Foundation that's making an effort to kind of archive, a bunch of old game software and stuff like that. They even try to like reach out to creators, where I think honestly, like that's kind of where the onus would be in a brave new digital first world. Like in the perfect version of that world, in terms of game preservation, you'd have companies would literally, there'd just be like some foundation or something, maybe some government sponsored, kind of art endowment foundation or something that takes the master copies of these games, which it's fine if it's digital, if it's actually being preserved by an organization that doesn't have, a moneyed interest in mind. Basically, that's a complete pipe dream and impossible to implement for a variety of reasons. But I think it's good at least that there are some organizations out there. And I know like even the Internet Archive has a MS-DOS games software library, for example, where they've managed to kind of catalog and preserve a lot of stuff in that way. And then like I think there's some like arcades that are almost acting as sort of preservation places now too, like particularly, a place I know you've been, Inferno Fox, Galloping Ghost, a place I've been to a few times. It's like a really cool, it feels like a preservation site in some ways, because they are literally kind of maintaining, fixing up, and doing the necessary kind of maintenance to keep these things working. So they're just independent archivers by happenstance, essentially. The problem, of course, with that is that arcade goes out of business or whatever, like so many of them do. And now, what happens to the games? They sell them off. Individual people get them. Inevitably, some just get trashed or whatever. And so it's not. I feel like overall, it's like game preservation needs to like kind of catch up on the like digital aspect of it, recognizing that increasingly, that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with you on that. I think as a sidebar, I think we need to do a field trip to the Galloping Ghost arcade. The store we'll have to fly out for that. But have all of us go, and we could like do I could do a filmed video and do a main Inferno Fox gaming video for it, and we can have a after trip sort of podcast discussion on how it went. So that's a fun topic idea. But
I would love that.
Yeah,
I
that'd
love
be a
that,
fun
please.
one. Mhm.
Yes, and I'll just be at the Pac-Man machine. I
There
will
are
be
lots
there.
of Pac-Man options.
Oh my God,
typically.
yes. Yeah, we went to one. We have one in walking distance here
oh, that's nice.
in Denver, so down the street. It's a huge arcade that has a bunch of the old games and stuff, so it's pretty nice.
Any racing games for me.
There you go.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, and really the big thing with the whole preservation of games, the one big thing that made waves a month or two ago is the fact that 87% of all video games released are critically endangered of being lost forever. And that's due to them never being re-released. And the big reason for that is restrictive copyright, as well as other issues with like it having to replicate the gaming experience from where they were to begin with. Like Galloping Ghost, there's a Castlevania arcade game where you have to use a physical whip to be able to trigger that as an attack. In the latter point of that is really going to be hard to replicate. I mean, emulation can help and be a band-aid for that, but again, you get the whole legality of that aspect being murky at best. And really kind of like looking at the whole idea of how much people have the nostalgia goggles for stuff like that at Galloping Ghosts, and just nostalgia in general. Look how the player count for the OG Fork Knife maps just this past week and weekend, where you had the previous high being like 2.8 million people playing at one time, being the highest for Fork Knife, and then for Epic reintroducing the original maps from when Fork Knife was first released, obliterating the records and having 5 million concurrent players. To me, that speaks to not only the marriage of what it works now with Fork Knife and its gameplay style, but also what worked back then and what got people into the game, being sort of like that thing reminding everybody, hey, this is why I liked it, this is what makes it good. And hopefully bringing a newer generation, like the younger kids who remember playing it as really young kids, being like, okay, these kind of experiences are going to be gone again. What can we do to sort of replicate that? And Astrimedes, you made a really good point that it's great to know that there are individuals and groups that want to try and do that. I've heard of EverQuest, for example, if I'm remembering right, they've got people who have private servers that people can connect onto to be able to preserve that online MMORPG experience.
Yep, there's apparently some really big servers running, like I want to say it's called P99. I've read about it. I actually read an article of someone who played a bunch of EverQuest now, which they've retained in that case, kind of the whole original experience. It's really interesting.
Yeah, and it's definitely cool that you've got people who are willing to have those sort of servers to be able to, but like, what about for Jason, you and I played Final Fantasy Record Keeper, and that was a mobile only game, and they shut that down here in the US about a year and a half ago, but there were a lot of really good core gaming experiences in that. And before we started the discussion, we had a little bit of pre-discussion. Jason and Simbu, you mentioned another game that you two played together. What game was that?
Oh my god, why am I Rage of Bahamut, right? Yep, it was like right. It was like a card based, you built up like a small deck, and you kind of, it was only like a small deck where you used like 5 or 6 cards at a time, and you battled the different people with those, just that little hand of cards, and it was a fun game.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's going to be pretty much gone for good if the game has it been canceled? Is this still
gone?
Yeah,
it's been gone for a couple of years now.
Yeah, that's a shame, because there's really no way to recapture that.
Nope.
So really, that's the concern game preservation wise. But kind of getting back to physical media, I just kind of want to get a barometer just in general, not just video games, but as I mentioned, Best Buy not carrying the Blu-rays in the movies, kind of like how concerned we are with physical media sort of dying out. Jamie Owls, I kind of want to get your perspective on that. I know you're kind of like a collector like I am with when it comes to physical media. So just kind of want to, Jamie Owls, what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so as a collector myself, I like to collect things that are based off of like my favorite genres or types of, video games based on its history. In February of next year, the first 3 original Tomb Raider games are going to be coming out in a remastered version for the Switch. And as how excited I am for that, I just really hope that they do come out with a physical copy, because with Alan Wake 2 finding out about the newest game, this finding out it's only coming out digital. And as much as I love playing Alan Wake 2, I still wanted a physical copy, because that's the game that I wanted to play and looked forward to. I wanted to collect it. But unfortunately, it's only available for a digital version, and in a way that kind of concerns me, because all my favorite games are now going to be more digital, to where I can't collect them and have them all displayed on my shelf and look pretty. So in a way, it's kind of concerning. But I do want to mention, with physical media going away, like, how long is that going to be? Like, is it going to be a thing where people are going to realize that, oh, it was much easier having an actual physical copy than the digital version?
Yeah, and it also begs the question, you buy it digitally, what happens when rights are revoked? You bought the copy, but this has happened a few times with Amazon, with some of their digital property, where people bought like actual like movies and stuff like that, and when the original creators revoke the rights, even though you bought it, it's gone and you can't download it or re-download it. And Astrimedes and I were sort of discussing this earlier, where this happens all the time with mobile games and the mobile devices where you buy a game, but then it gets revoked from the store, and then sometimes you can't even re-download it if you accidentally deleted it or you purchased a new mobile phone or something like that. Then you paid the money for the game and it literally means nothing. So at least with having the physical copy, you're sort of it's kind of it's placating in a way, because like, okay, at least I physically have this. The only way that Viacom is going to not get their money or something like that is if their lawyers come in and physically take my copy of Five Nights at Freddy's, the movie, the game, the movie edition. You know what I mean? Like if I physically have it, I can always play it whenever I want. So and I agree with you, Jamie Owls. My concern for that's pretty high as well. Storm, you are a definite mediophile. I love
I am.
I love your videos that you have. Again, that's Stormrosesky's YouTube channel. You can catch a lot of her content about her favorite like horror movies, her favorite childhood sort of like these TV shows you might have forgotten from the 80s. So that, like, I definitely want to get your feedback. What are your thoughts about physical media dying out in general?
Oh, it hurts because I too like having physical copies of things that I really, really love. And let me tell you my experience with Apple and when we moved, and right before we moved, we switched to the family account, and all of my music that I had bought was gone. I had no access to it for a while because it was now under the family membership and we had to move it. I was losing my mind. I was so angry at them because music is one of the most important things to me. Whatever. I know everyone says that about music, but whatever. I have a ton of it. So I had a ton invested digitally because there's some music I can't get because a lot of my favorite bands are over in Europe, and getting physical copies of their CDs is expensive. I have done that for a couple of box sets though for Lord of the Lost, and I've also bought their albums digitally. I've bought Avatar's CDs physically and also digitally to give them support, because it doesn't matter. Artists don't make crap on CDs. That's a whole different topic with music and whatever. So, buy their merch. That's where they make money. So as far as physical video games, I want to have a physical copy of Super Mario RPG, because I regret ever selling our Super Nintendo with that copy. I still wish we had all of that, but whatever. So I do like to have that physical ever. And movies, oh god, I have a ton of movies. And a lot of them I now get the Blu-ray DVD combo packs, and a lot will have the digital code. And for the longest time, whatever movie it is, I will share with my friend. She gets my codes because I don't use them, because I have the physical copies. So yeah, I can understand why the industry is going digitally, I guess, but I think they overjudge how many of us, or like the industry is deciding for us that we don't want physical copies of things, when general we want the physical copies, because not selling as many movies, or I've noticed the shrinkage of box sets that are out for TV shows. I'm glad they've come down in price, honestly, but I'm glad they think that we all just want to watch them on streaming services when we don't, because what if you don't have that service that they're on, and if you lose internet and all that happy stuff. So yeah, that is a whole bunch of a lot, but I do have strong opinion about it. I don't like it, go with the flow of it, but whatever. I think the industry needs to take a step back and see what people really want versus
We don't need physical copies or headphone jacks.
No. Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Don't
it's
even
funny.
get me started.
With that point, I really feel like Storm, you both, you and Astrimedes hit the nail on the head, where they're not listening to the consumer, they're trying to dictate to the consumer what they think we want. And I hate to say it, they're doing a really good job of it, because if people just, if like the kids just grow up and that's just how things are, you know, then that's how that they're gonna think it is. Like, okay, well, this experience that I had as a 5 or 10-year-old, it's gone forever. I'll never be able to have it back, which which is why I'm so hopeful for the OG fork knife maps to be able to spur those memories for the kids playing it, you know, 5 to 7 years ago, to be like, you know what, I want my stuff back. I want to take it back. And though they can vote with their dollars, and the companies will see that. And that's nothing new. I mean, old stuff comes back all the time. I mean, that's par for the course. I think the 90s style of clothing and stuff is back.
Yes.
I'm trying to think who else I
It has come
heard
back.
that from, or like the 90s clothes and stuff is back.
Yeah, I
but
mean, kids are wearing Nirvana shirts.
yeah, and probably
Yeah.
half of them maybe not
Yeah.
even knowing what that means.
Nirvana. Let me, I'm just gonna cut back in to say I am a user of digital games. And I think why Sony is so well is because look at the Sony membership stuff that they have for their online service. My lovely husband did get the very top tier for me this year when we got the PlayStation. So, being able to try out games and because I have this for the year, I have access to play this. So maybe I don't know if that counts with their numbers, because there are a lot of games I have access to, and I'm sure other members or other, PlayStation users will also take advantage of being able to download those and play, and they're all digital. So and you're basically renting it for the year, because I'm sure when the membership goes away, you no longer have some of these in
Yeah.
your library. So
Yeah, and one of
there
the
is
things that
but if you try it and then you buy it, because I fell in love with God of War, and I will probably get a physical copy of Ragnarok when I get it eventually here in the next couple of weeks. There you go. Sorry.
No, I was just going to recommend you to, when that year lapses, jump down to the extra tier, the second tier, because the premium one, everything I've been hearing from people who have had the PlayStation Plus premium has not been paying the dividends, but PlayStation Plus Extra, that has the stuff like, I think Sea of Stars was added to that right away, and it still gets good gets on it.
Okay. Sounds good.
General recommendation. Simbu, did you have any thoughts on that, just in general, about physical media in general, video games, movies, TV shows, physically dying out?
Well, see, here's where it's a catch-22. It's a darned if you do, darned if you don't kind of situation. Nintendo gets away with the physical media and will, for the long foreseeable future, I believe, for their first party stuff, will continue to have the physical media, because there is that huge collector's market for it. Not to mention the amount of data that can be held on each individual cartridge is enough to basically hold the game itself. I hold here in my hands, which is apparently not showing up, Jedi Survivor. On here, by the bottom of Cal Kestis' lightsaber, it says internet required. Now, I open it up. There is a physical disc. But how much is on this disc? Very little, because the game itself requires 155 gigabytes. Now, a Blu-ray disc, as some of you may or may not know, only holds 100 gigabytes of data. Therefore, they would have had to do something like, one second. They would have had to do something such as, where is my copy of Horizon? There it is. They would have to do something like Horizon, where you have the data disc and you have the play disc. Now, apparently, according to Big Corp, this right here is very expensive. This is the most expensive part of the entire game, which is why they won't do it, why they stopped doing it. Now, as far as like that, again, when you're talking games like on Xbox or PlayStation, you're talking about these 150, 140, 170. I mean, what the new Call of Duty 3 is going to be what, 180 gigs at download or something like that at offset? Like it's a massive game. What, you know, on sets like that, what's the point of buying a physical disc when all it's doing is checking that I have permission to play the game?
Yeah,
there's no point.
It's funny too, because like between a disc or two discs versus the cartridge from Nintendo Switch, the cartridges are like so much more expensive than the 100 gigabyte Blu-ray discs, and especially like a 64 gigabyte cartridge for the Nintendo Switch is inordinately more expensive than the 100 gigabyte disc. And kind of going back to what Simbu was saying too, like the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth coming out, which is the second of the remake series, is coming out next year in February. That's going to be about 200 gigabytes, and it's all going to be on discs. Square Enix and Sony have confirmed it's going to be two physical copies of two, like the multi-layer Blu-rays where it can hold 100 gigabytes each. Great. That's great. I'm glad that they do that Square Enix is thinking of old farts like me that want to have the all physical, all on the thing. But Simbu makes a good point to where it's like, okay, good that they're doing that, but a lot of times a lot of these companies just want to have that sort of savings to where, okay, the disc can do the DRM function to confirm the authenticity of the player. Great. Point the player to the actual download it off. I almost said download offline. That made no sense. Download the rest of the game online, and you can sort of play from there. If there is an EMP and it knocks out everything, though, we're all screwed.
Yeah, and like that, at that point, with games being so big and, you know, basically having a DRM in my hand right here in my system, if I don't have the game already installed on my system, it does me no good anyways. So why does, at that point, and that's where my question is why does it matter if this is a physical or a digital only? Now, again, a game like Nintendo, a system like Nintendo with the cartridge setup, where the game is on that cartridge. That is the game. You know, granted, I'm not talking collections, okay? As we all know, those are, you know, here it's all, but Super Mario Wonder or Super Mario RPG. The game is on the cartridge. So you are, in a sense, preserving, and if the EMP, you know, Matrix, you know, Scion bomb hits us, then you guys are good with your Nintendo. But with, you know, systems like the PS5 and the Xbox that, you know, are literally probably like this far underneath computers at this point, you can't really do that without really downgrading to like PS4 graphics.
Yeah, so like it puts us at an interesting point, especially with something like GTA 6. GTA 6 is rumored to be at least 200 gigabytes. So it's going to beg the question, is that going to be, are they going to put what will be, it is going to be the biggest and the most selling game for whatever year that comes out. Are they going to take the time to put that on 2 discs, 3 discs? I highly doubt it. I'd like to think maybe they'll have a deluxe version that'll have that. But I would doubt it. And Simbu, I think you're shaking your head. You're agreeing with me there.
No,
I think I was gonna say real quick. I think that it'll all depend on if the company believes that it will sell and they can make the money off of it.
To offset the additional costs.
Yes, because like Grand Theft Auto has a big following that I think they would gamble on making a physical copy, where
that could also be the exact kind of opposite motivation too. If they know the audience is going to buy it, they don't care because you're going to buy it anyway.
Exactly.
That is true.
You're going to get the game whether I tell you it's $50, I tell you it's $100, I tell you that you have to jump up and down and spank your neighbor's butt or something 12 times, okay? In front of the GameStop store at midnight. It doesn't matter. If you're going to buy the game anyways, no matter what. And again, with a 200 gigabyte download game file, your physical copy is going to be this.
And at that point,
be a DRM.
What sort of there's the convenience factor of digital only to where, okay, imagine you're switching between games. You got to get up, you hit the button to eject the game, you pull the disc out, then you put the different game in versus just, you're in the menu, you're continuing to sit or lay on your butt playing the game, and you just switch between games. You don't have to worry about the whole ejection thing. So there's that convenience factor that's probably part and parcel to people being okay with.
Well, if you want to go with that argument, then let's go with the argument as to space on the system, because then you have to get external hard drives to keep getting more and more games compared to the physical copy. You don't need
which brings more money
for the company, yes. But if you're talking money, a physical copy is $60. Oh, digital $60, but you get absolutely nothing for it. So it's not like you're saving money by getting it digitally.
And remember, this generation, either way, you're installing the game onto the hard drive. So even if it's even if it's a physical disc, it's still taking up that hard drive space. Sorry, Simbu.
Oh yeah.
A little bit of a writer on your assessment there, Jason. There are a lot of games that have digital only versions that give you bonuses for purchase. So, for example, the Storm will probably remember this as well. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre game on digital only, you got $5 off for buying it digital.
Yep.
If you wanted physical, so it would be $35 digitally, $40 physically. So there was an offset of cost right there. So you had to pay an extra $5 for the hard copy. But again, that's an online only game. So your another debate's going to be is online only versus a single player experience. And there's a lot of ones that have a digital edition where all digital edition where you get like cosmetics, or you can get skill points, early unlocks, things like that for buying it digitally.
Yeah, and I feel like it's going to end up becoming a thing where it'll be a premium sort of experience, like think about how albums are with music, to where that came back recently / very recently, and now you look at it like, oh, it's kind of like a premium thing. I can buy my favorite album, Simbu, you're going to be buying Taylor Swift's 1989. You spend $30 to be able to have the actual album, so you can listen to your Tay and all the players want to play. So you be in good shape.
I think you're confusing me with
Taylor
Astrimedes.
Swift album.
I think you confused me with Astrimedes. He looks like the Swiftie.
Yep.
I knew I was messing it up. It must have been the kitty. Have the kitty on the brain.
I think it would be nice if we actually did see, because I think it would be fair if companies said, here's the one, this costs $10-20 more, whatever, but it's got all the stuff on there, and then here's a lower priced digital only version. Because at least the benefit there would be there are versions of the game that exist in the world that are the whole game. So in terms of archiving, you've kind of preserved that option.
And you're talking about the limited run model of physical games.
Basically, yeah. Because the reality is, I'm someone who's extremely minimalist. I don't like clutter and stuff, but I recognize the value of, having backups essentially. And that's, if nothing else, that's what a physical copy of a game, can be. So I do sort of hate that it's going away, or in, you know, most cases now, like just never existed. Like most of the games I play literally don't have retail versions. There is nothing physical to buy because they were developed and released in a completely digital, you know, fashion, often by some smaller company, but even bigger companies, of course, too. So I do think it's problematic that those digital copies of things are going away. I think it's going to be down to, you know, the assessment of the companies if it's worth kind of like continuing to offer something like that. And I think whoever mentioned it earlier, probably Simbu, made a really good point that like a company like Nintendo, that's a very different decision-making process than another company, just because Nintendo does have a much more dedicated kind of collector market. So it's very different decision when it comes down to like what the numbers are for each company. And it's kind of unfortunate that it's, you know, in the hands of the companies to basically decide the potential lifetime of the products these creators have made at those companies or whatever. So I think really like a lot of this, like, I feel like it's almost down to the developers of these things to somehow preserve an original copy. And I mean, when it comes to a company, it's like that's intellectual property theft if an individual developer decides to do that, you know. So maybe if all the developers hold on to the source code of the games they write and whatever physical things are associated with the games, pass it down to their descendants if necessary, and wait for the copyright to expire, and then they can be preserved.
But
You know, I do have one question, Astrimedes, and I would like to ask you this. It is very pertinent to our discussion here about physical versus digital. In terms of glitch repairs or patchworks, look at, back with N64 with the cartridges, like it had to be, the game had to be ready to come out. It had to be perfect, very minimal glitches and patches, or very minimal glitches, in the game for it to come out. Versus games like nowadays, with this whole day one patch thing, is it just more or less the reason physical is dying? A lot of it, physical is dying, is because it's easier for developers to put out a better experience faster by running only on digital and having the game, download like the day before release to your system with all the patchwork that they've done since the game was finalized and ready to go.
I do think it's, you know, it is even easier to do that when that's the case and they don't have to be complete and released on physical media. But I don't think I think it's honestly just the raw cost of putting the product out that is actually the main sort of detractor away from that. I think it's just an unfortunate bonus that the companies can basically be even sloppier about how the game is on day one, because you are literally depending and expecting to download it anyway. Because I mean, even if they did release the full game, you know, on the media, there's no reason they can't also offer a patch, you know, the next day or whatever if they need to. So releasing the entire product on physical media doesn't preclude you from making an update later. But it does, by having it be digital only, it almost just encourages sloppier releases, I feel like, because because the thing is, I mean, even though you can't patch it the day after, whatever, regardless, it is true that you do have to have a much more locked down, totally worked and QA'd, totally working and completely QA'd game that is ready to be what you hope is, you know, the 1.0 fully functional version of the game by the time it is released on that physical media. So I think it's kind of, I would say that's like a secondary benefit, or maybe like a secondary motivator just after, you know, what the just raw financial benefit is of not having to do all that in terms of the physical media.
Yeah, because the only reason why that question sparks my interest is because of, look at beta testing for games, like, when they have these closed betas for Fortnite, or they have closed betas for, games that are coming out, they're done all on PC and only on PC, so that these, devs, while these games are being played, if there's game breaking glitches, they can shut it down, throw a patch in, and then bring it back online again without having to wait, okay, does everyone have internet, blah, 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 blah. We gotta, like quick source, rapid fire stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, the thing is, like, the reality is it should be people internal to the company doing all that stuff to get it to a complete and working product. Unfortunately, it's become like a largely accepted norm from gamers and people that, to kind of like participate in the process. And I think the way Steam did a real like disservice to the software development like world in general by handling early access and everything the way they do, because all people see is that something's released, no matter how many warnings and eye bleeding walls of text you put in front of the user. If they bought it and it's a game, they're going to expect it to work, and they're not going to read any of that stuff.
It's like the Kickstarter effect, though, where people like the idea of getting in on the ground floor, but like what you're saying, it's got that text wall of, okay, this is whether or not this is early access, it doesn't matter. But like, it's, if you think something even like high quality like Hades, even when that was early access like a year or 2 or 3 before it actually released, it still had the core engine still ran really well, but it was obvious that there were bugs and everything that needed to work out that the beta testing sort of helped to iron out. But
yeah, and for a small company, it's a great option to do that. I'm just kind of lamenting the like weird state we're in, where it's like by exposing people to software that kind of like isn't done on a regular basis, like it makes everyone just think that it's impossible to make software that works.
It excuses the big guys to make crap. Like
exactly.
Simbu knows I'm going to die on this hill of Nintendo and Game Freak making Pokemon Scarlet and Violet the way it is. Like I see Jason over there laughing, but like that's honestly, I still feel it's inexcusable how they release that. But kind of let's bringing everything sort of all back here. It's the whole idea of physical media disappearing. It is something that I feel like the direction that we're heading, hopefully we'll see some sort of getting back to having at least both ways of doing things. I'm not encouraged, especially the fact that Nintendo's newest system supposedly is going to also have 2 versions of digital only and digital/physical, but technically Nintendo has systems exactly. No, I'm wrong. I almost said it had systems exactly like that, but the Switch Lite is both physical and digital. You just can't dock it. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yes, so, I have a Switch Lite.
Yeah, so at least it could take physical copies, but the newest system is supposedly going to be either physical and digital or digital only. So and the PS5, the slimmer version of it is leaning more towards the physical media being like an accessory that requires an internet connection for you to use, at least to start off, to sort of activate the internal code to make sure you're not you're not pirating media there. So, but I want to go ahead and thank my awesome cast and crew. We had a really good, lively discussion here, just sort of discussing the ins and outs of this. Our cast and crew here, of course, is Jason the 13th, whom you can find at his YouTube channel of Jason the 13th. Jason, you mentioned that you were having computer issues, laptop issues. That's preventing you from creating new content?
Yeah, I realized I've recorded the first chunk of the DLC and my audio wasn't working again. And I'm going to record the second chunk, and my recorder decided to stop partway through, start up again, and stop again. So I don't know what in the heck happened with that one. So part 2 is at a couple of chunks, and I got to figure out what to do with with everything.
Yeah, maybe slice and dice
Pokemon Scarlet of your recording there, Jay.
Yep. Like I said, my laptop's having issues, so it's taking a little longer to get the DLC out than I wanted it to.
That's frustrating. I'm sorry. And then of course we got my partner in crime, Jamie Ells. Jamie Ells, thank you so much for joining us. Always appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And next up, we've of course had Stormrosesky of the Twitch and YouTube channels of Stormrosesky. Storm, two things. Just want to make sure if you had any last thoughts, as well as you had any future content coming on your YouTube channel.
Or first, the YouTube channel, I am going to be working on still. The history of Pac-Man's coming slow because it's a bit of a process to make a video and working and all of that. But another part 2 to the top 5 forgotten movies I want to work on. Yeah, so
Awesome.
that's about it for that. But I do have one point at with all these digital games, let me tell you, they are making an impact because for the non-podcasting life, I am a substitute teacher. So I've been subbing for one school, and today in that art class, there were boys who were drawing, and I walked by and I heard Tilted Towers. So of course I had to come back and check what they were doing. They were drawing maps. They drew a Tilted Tower at area. They had another area that was just on the map, before the OG came out. Probably the Rumble Ruins. And
Rumble
they even
Ruins.
they even drew Xbox controllers because these kids had Xbox and had drew little microphone pieces on paper and tore them and held them up to their ears as they were playing Fortnite on multiple pieces of paper in the map. It was great. They even drew hit points over somebody's head that was worth 200 points for that headshot. It was fun. So there's that. And Roblox. I've heard a lot about Roblox and Minecraft, but some of those digital games are big, and yeah, I just love the Fortnite stuff. It was great.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. It's always cool to see how the kids are playing the games and everything like that, especially because I was hearing that the millennial generation, our generation, is the one that still plays the most video games, and that Gen Zs and Gen Alphas are not playing as many video games as we do or we had. So that it always heartened to hear kids playing video games. I have the whole retro bird get on my lawn idea or thought process when it comes to the game. So that's very cool.
Yep.
Next up, of course, we had Astrimedes, the developer and co-owner of Second Place Games. Astrimedes, thank you so much for joining us, as well as providing your feedback in a dev perspective. And to that end, do you have any updates on Horde Lord being ported over, reported again?
I've put a little more work in on it. There's maybe kind of sort of a little more breathing room from the day job. So I'm hopeful that maybe in the next few weeks, I'll be able to put that out. It might be a little more than that because I have some personal life stuff that's actually good coming up that will be taking up my time here. But other than that, yeah, you'll find me online downloading everything and saving it to the biggest hard drive I can find.
Excellent. Very good. And then last and certainly not least, we have Simbu Darkfang, the best Fortnite player. Not hearing any argument. As well as primary actor for Basement of the Dead. You can find Basement of the Dead if you're in the Chicagoland area. Definitely recommend checking them out if you're up for a premium haunted house experience. They are located in Aurora, Illinois. Simbu, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, it's always a great thing, great time to be here. One little final note, I didn't get a chance to get to it, but in the argument of physical versus digital, as a father myself, I will say the all digital is kind of nice to have, only because then a little terror can't destroy the disc, and then I don't have the game anymore. But I do own the digital copy of God of War Ragnarok, and when it goes on like a nice sale, I will be picking up a physical copy of it. But again, it's nice to have that all digital library, because then with good internet, I have good fast internet and unlimited data on my internet. So, I'm able to download and, delete at will, which is nice.
Very, very cool. Yeah, I definitely can understand and appreciate that. And two more notes as we get ready to sign off. I, of course, this Saturday on the Inferno Fox Gaming channel, I have, excuse me, featuring a top 10 of favorite original NES multiplayer games that I played as a kid and are still good today. Big thanks to Jamie Owls for your help with being able to capture that footage. And then
It was fun.
yeah, we definitely had a lot of fun with that. And then last but not least, just want to, of course, thank our sponsor, Factor, for sponsoring us today. Factor, and that's right. If you put in your code Inferno Fox Gaming 10 10909090, you'll receive 1% off of your Factor order. Yes, it's Factor, where healthy eating made easy.
Get 0% off your order.
Exactly. Thank you so much for
Big
joining
no
us.
for you.
And hope you guys all have a good day, good week, and come and join us next Tuesday or next Wednesday for our next podcast.
Save all your games in a bomb shelter.
Yes.